Greetings. I have many videos on this channel about how telework and working from home is the natural progression of the internet, and I have that going back many years, in fact. And this is so obvious that I am surprised how many people are still opposed to this and still talking about mandating return to office or how it is your duty to return to office. And this is when you know that a prediction is correct, as in the work from home being normalized is the correct prediction, because the rationales that are being presented by the opponents are getting less and less logical and less quantitatively proportional. For example, people who oppose work from home say, well, what happens to all the water cooler communications and being able to bug your colleague for something because they're 2 cubicles over? That is beneficial, what, a couple of times a year? For that you want to commute to the office and back 250 times a year? Where's the mathematical proportionality of that? Other people who are in favor of returning to the office, they seem to act as though people have Star Trek type transporters and it does not cost any time or money or hassle or risk to commute to and from the office. Last I checked, traffic accidents still do happen in the world, and more people are being assaulted and even robbed on subway systems, such as the San Francisco Bay Area Rapid Transit System, BART, and the New York City subway. There's violent crime on these subway systems, and BART in the Bay Area is still down about 65% from pre-COVID use. The other thing is that they think in binary, which is that they think it's an all or nothing proposition, and they have no paradigm of going to the office half of the time or 1 day a week, because they say, well, you lose this mentorship dimension that you got from going to the office. Young people lose that. That's true if you never went to the office. If you are going to the office half of the time, yes, you are still commuting half of the time, but then you are still getting whatever positive benefit from mentorship that might occur. In fact, you are trading quantity for quality because you'll make sure that each instance of going to the office is more and more useful. So this opposition to working from home also presumes that it's an all or nothing proposition. Now, I even have a video over here about Elon Musk being vehemently opposed to people working from home, which was odd because he's usually right about everything pertaining to technological disruption and the technology industry, but he was very vehement about this and gave unusually weak arguments, making a moral argument that it's morally wrong for you to work from home when some people can't. The waitress and the barista can't, and the garbage collector obviously can't. Therefore, it's morally wrong for you to do so. And the minute I saw that, I knew what the real reason was, which I described in that video that was in that tag a bit ago. From third millennium economics principles, atom principles as I used to call them, electric vehicles were a certain level of technological disruption, but is getting squeezed by the higher order technological disruption, which is working from home, because that is more dematerialized, is not merely displacing oil and replacing it with electricity-based transportation. It is replacing all transportation. It is replacing the need for office buildings to a 50% degree, because office vacancy is still only 50% of what it was pre-COVID. And his other company, Elon Musk's other company, SpaceX, is the ultimate work from home telework technology, because you can have a Starlink internet subscription and then roam around anywhere in the world. There are people who backpack across the world while simultaneously working at their corporate job because they manage their time schedule, but also because they have Starlink and they can stay on their single Starlink subscription. So Elon Musk is so disruptive that he has disrupted himself. Starlink directly conflicts with Tesla automobile demand, because the more suitable you are for being a customer of a Tesla car, the more likely you are to be able to work from home as well. And that is his main opposition. Otherwise, it makes no sense that he would be opposed to that. But you get all kinds of strange opposition to that. A lot of PhD economists, they come up with the bright idea of another 5% income tax increase on people who work from home. Why? So that we can preserve both the restaurants that exist near office spaces, and we can preserve the jobs of daycare center people, because if you work from home, many parents, God forbid, they can actually spend more time with their children. Now, only a PhD economist could possibly come up with something that bad. I would argue that a society where a large number of children are in daycare is doing something wrong. Yet a PhD economist wants to increase taxes by a non-trivial amount, 5%. Remember that if you're already under 50% income tax, a 5% increase reduces your take-home pay from 50% to 45%. So your take-home pay falls by 10% because the top level bracket rose by 5%. This is the type of thing that a PhD economist often comes up with. In this case, it was the chief economist at Deutsche Bank. What a horrible idea. God forbid that parents might actually be able to spend more time with their children. But the benefits of work from home become so obvious that the sorting is automatic. Yes, some people might be less productive, but they will probably take jobs that pay a little bit less. Many people will decide to take a job that pays 10% less just because they get to work from home. Saving 3 hours a day in commuting while making 10% less, many people will sign up for that. Let the market sort that out. Other people who are more driven, more productive, they are doing second gigs now. I know quite a few people who have their normal corporate job, but they also have a consulting gig that is about 10 hours a week. And they make $10,000 a month doing that because they're saving time from commuting. Now, would you rather be stuck in traffic commuting for 3 hours a day, or would you rather have a second gig where you are earning $10,000 a month extra on top of your corporate job? Nobody's going to give that up. Another point, it is 10 times easier to look for a new job when work from home is normal, and that is one of the main things that some employers have a problem with because they have lost that power differential. Many years ago, when I was younger, I was working at a smaller tech company. It was a public company, but smaller in size, and I wanted to interview for a job elsewhere. And I was interviewing at Electronic Arts. And there was a full day interview schedule that I was preparing for, and I was going to be brought in to interview all day long at Electronic Arts. Great. But I had to use up a precious vacation day at my existing employer to just go and interview at Electronic Arts. And I had to let the employer think that I was taking a vacation day when I was in fact using one of those precious days that you accrue slowly for an interview which you may or may not get a job. That is not a very good power balance between employee and employer, and work from home makes that much, much more equalized. The balance of power is slightly in favor of the employee now because the employee can do quite a bit more of the interview process secretly. One thing that's weird about the age we live in is that when people are looking for a new job, they have to sneak around and hide and pretend and make excuses and all that to their existing employer. That's unfortunate, but all of this is much easier under work from home. Not great for employers. I mean, I've had a lot of people report to me too, and obviously I don't want them to just leave unless they explain to me why they feel that leaving would be better or something. But nonetheless, from an employee perspective, this is a tremendous liberation versus having to use a vacation day just to interview somewhere. There are more points still. A few years ago, wasn't there a big Me Too movement where women said that they were sexually harassed in the office and how this was a huge problem? Now, to the extent that this was a big problem, that's a huge argument in favor of work from home just to nullify all of this harassment that might be happening. Because over Zoom, you can't really do any type of meaningful harassment, and the victim could record the video and submit it to human resources and so forth. So that problem is completely gone under a work from home paradigm. There's just too many benefits. Consider both extremes of the workforce. Elderly people. An older person's ability to drive a car on the highway goes away a lot sooner than their ability to work at a desk. Many people who retire don't retire because they hate their job. A lot of what they dislike is commuting to their job and getting ready each morning. If they could work part-time from home in a certain gig that isn't all that demanding, that can go on until much, much later in life because they're not required to drive on a highway anymore. It's a good way for older people to be engaged because the problem with retirement for many people is that it's very binary. They're working and then they stop and then they don't know what to do with their time in many cases. Having a part-time gig over video conferencing is a very, very valuable thing that can fix the retirement crisis in America to a considerable degree because the viability of a part-time opportunity is now there when it wasn't there when it involved commuting. And the same is true at the other end of the age spectrum. Let's say you have a 16-year-old daughter. She wants to work at a job. She should get experience, but you're not thrilled about her commuting somewhere, going somewhere and coming back. Whether via car, where she has to use one of the family's cars, or via public transportation, where all kinds of other bad things could happen. But if she can do that work from home over telework, then the main objection that parents would have to their 16-year-old daughter having her very first job would go away. So there is a new layer of employment opportunity created there at both extremes of the age spectrum. These are all things to think about, but this is why I was able to say with considerable certainty that telework is the natural progression of the internet. That was so incredibly obvious because it had all the characteristics of every other revolution that the internet enabled in telecommunications. It wasn't that long ago when international phone calls were expensive, and now they are completely free. E-commerce has eaten up 17-18% of all retail sales in the US, and in some countries more than that. Streaming video, there were 9,044 video stores in the US, Hollywood Video, Blockbuster Video, and so forth. Now there are very, very few, only one really that is kept as a museum. 9,044 went away because this streaming video concept is more dematerialized. And this has to be the case for a fair amount of working from home. Now, one caveat, there's always someone who likes to fail the Confucius test. There's always someone who is not able to think at this level and feels that they're brilliant by stating the obvious, and they'll state, well, not all jobs can be done from home. It's not about all jobs being done from home. Yes, the waitress cannot work from home. The surgeon also cannot work from home. It's about 50% of workday instances. When someone is going to the office 2 days a week, 2 days out of 5, that means they have 60% work from home, 40% going to the office. Other people will have different percentages and so forth. But half of all commute instances have been eliminated. That's why commercial real estate in the United States is still at a 50% vacancy level. And the technology industry, Silicon Valley and other tech employers across the country, they're at least 65% work from home. That's what I see here in Silicon Valley. All these very nice office buildings, some of which were built right before COVID-19, are mostly empty with no tenants because there is 3 times as much supply as demand. And that is what we would expect as a disruption from the accelerating technomic medium of the world under third millennium economics. So that is a prediction we can declare victory on.